I remain in Europe, there will always be shots. I am sorry for this taking too long. You could say I'm having some technical difficulties. I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. I thought I had it on my end, and for whatever reason, I'm not able to record like I thought I would be. It's odd.
Yeah. Like I say, shit happens. So if you'll just tell me excuse, should be in a quick little minute.
Can you guys see the screen share at least in the meantime?
I can.
All right.
Uh, 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 uh. And recording is live. Shit,
Hey.
I'm efficient.
That's all right. It's not like we had an extra hour to figure this out or anything.
No, not at all. Very limited on the time. No,
Yeah.
sorry guys. We are at it. I have with me Craig here on the stage, and also James, who has been working on a lot of stuff for the Superphoenix early on as well. So it's not a new face, but not a face we see very often here. Happy to see you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we could do a quick intro for James. I don't know if I've actually ever had you on the stage here before, James. So you'll have to remind me if we did. We've only done a few of these. I think it's roughly 2 or 3 a year that we hop on. But I guess for anybody who doesn't know, James runs a firm called Unboxed that really just does a lot of different behind the scenes dev work for all sorts of projects. And he's been with us from the start. I was fortunate enough to reach out to James before we started Superphoenix DAO well over a year ago, and he was really great about it and liked the idea, and it's been kind of helping us ever since. Right from inception last year when we did the website, a lot of the initial marketing, the data cubes, the launch, the merge, the staking, all of those good things have been through James and his folks. So James, I don't know if you want to add on any of that.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. Yeah, I don't think mine is a face that anyone has seen before. I've kind of lurked in the shadows and just me and my team have built some things. But hearing you run through that list of all the things that we sort of worked on over the last year was a little bit of like a quick blast from the past. It's been a good time.
Excellent. Yeah, obviously I appreciate it. You guys have done phenomenal work. We've always gotten just amazing comments and feedback from everybody in the community on pretty much every phase and launch that we've done so far. And obviously we know that's going to continue here as we go forward. So I can kind of jump into some of the new stuff, and then James might be able to shed some light on maybe a little bit more of the technical aspects of some of the things we're building and working on here through the rest of the year. So. With that, I can kind of dive in unless anybody's got anything else. All right.
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's do it. So yeah, this time it's a little more formal. I've actually got a full presentation here ready for everybody instead of me just kind of speaking into the abyss. So hopefully this helps a little bit and then makes the recording a little bit more valuable for anybody who can't make it today. So again, we're doing the town hall. It's been a while since we did the last one, and the whole idea is that we're going to go through some of the progress, some of the updates, and just walk through everything we've been working on, probably the last 3+ months or so, I would say. Roughly about how long it's been since we did the last one, wasn't it, Benny?
I think so.
Yeah,
Time flies really
thereabouts.
fast.
It does. It does. So I'll jump right into it. We kind of reiterate, the vision and the mission and everything that is, Superphoenix DAO. And the whole idea is we're still on focus. We're still moving forward with this being the entertainment hub for Star Atlas. The idea is pulling together esports, music, art, the whole social interaction, making this a social space for everybody, in and outside the game, to really create kind of that community entertainment hub and provide a place for everyone to be eventually as this stuff gets built out and as Star Atlas grows. We're fully committed to Star Atlas and knowing that they're growing, they're still building, they're moving forward, and we want to be at the center of all that growth and be the place that people want to go and socialize kind of between missions, between races, between arena competitions. And so we kind of see it as like a culture component as far as Star Atlas goes. Obviously, Star Atlas is doing its own thing and building, culture within the community there. But we look at Super Phoenix DAO as kind of this unique kernel of community-based culture that we're building within that Star Atlas universe. And so still very excited about it moving forward. There's a lot of different aspects that we've always kind of had in the initial vision from day one, and I think now we're finally starting to build out some of those what I've kind of called like pillars of what the DAO was always meant to be. So I'll go over a little bit more of that, along with, like I said, the general progress, the roadmap, and then see kind of how all that wraps together and what the impact is for everybody in the community. I guess real quick, just to expand on that. So as far as structure goes, I wanted to throw this in, super simple, almost, org chart style, but just a couple of the photos we have. But the idea is, and this is for anyone who maybe is newer or doesn't totally know or hasn't reread any of the documentation from a year ago when we kind of put stuff out. And honestly, even since then, a bit of this has evolved a little bit. But the idea is we still have the Super Phoenix DAO as kind of the overarching, central organization for all of the different pillars that I would call these in this case, or revenue streams if you want to call it that, or different aspects of the DAO. And so we can kind of reveal, I guess, the placeholders we have for all of these. And the new one that we're going to be talking about probably the most today is going to be Super Phoenix Sports. So again, the whole idea, for this entertainment hub was to bring together, components of the actual game, which is really that kind of esport competitive piece of what Star Atlas is building. Which now, the timing is really good. Was obviously, them coming live with the arena shooter and a lot of the updates that they've made in that environment, as well as the single seat racer environment, which we're going to focus on a bit as well. This feels like the perfect time to kind of pull forward that component, right? So this is a pillar of the different components of entertainment that will kind of flow up through the DAO, both from a revenue standpoint, but both also from the different experiences that we want to offer, people who are just participating in the game or are members, or have been following us since day one. So we've got Super Phoenix Sports, which is kind of that gaming, esports, spectator sport, component, and then obviously Super Phoenix Operations. That's really the ship, right? That's what we talked about probably a lot of last year, which was the idea of becoming, part owner in the ship, and the decision making that goes along with that. And then, of course, eventually the revenue component, as the ship gets deployed into Gallia, which we'll talk a little bit more about later too. Then the third component, the one I don't know if I've really touched on much. I think maybe in some of the interviews that I had done earlier this year, with Michael and a few of the other folks, and some of the partnerships and collaborations we worked on with like teams over at Portal, which we still have those things viable and we want to incorporate them as we move forward. But Super Phoenix, if you will, for bringing some of these experiences into, the whole entertainment environment of Star Atlas, and that's going to be with kind of more some AI components, musician persona, the concerts, all of that very cool stuff. That we've talked about since the beginning when we looked at all these just amazing renderings and images of what the Super Phoenix Titan ship can be or will be. So again, wanted to just kind of reiterate that for folks, as kind of a future state of what we want to see the overall structure of Phoenix DAO. And I can always get into more of the business stuff as it pertains as well. But I guess really quickly, Super Phoenix DAO is going to be its own legally registered entity where the DAO tokens then become the voting and governance for. And as of now, to date, we actually have the Super Phoenix Sports Inc. as a registered corporation. That's also going to have its own international subsidiary so that we can do a lot more of the stuff we need to do, both for folks in the U.S. and for everyone else, just because of how a lot of those regulations go. Now, the other pieces, Super Phoenix operations and the entertainment, those will come later. Once we get those more established and we figure out the best way to structure the revenue streams back to the DAO. And I guess oh, go ahead.
I just see a few people having issue with the actual presentation. I had to break it up. I didn't want to break it up in the middle of your talking.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
Just a quick. Does any of you have an issue with watching the actual stream? Doesn't look for you. Good for you. Okay.
Yeah, I can't see the stream, but if it works for most people, no need to pause on my account.
Kind of looks like a 50-50 situation here, so I'm not sure.
Not hot. Do we? I wonder. Do we have kind of a capped number of folks that can tune into it? Is that possible?
Should not be the issue. Maybe you can try to start it again.
Hop out
get
and
it,
restart.
Get back at it. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
We can
sorry.
do that.
Sorry about it, but let's try to fix this for everybody.
No problemo. All right. How about that? Are we looking at a ship?
Ooh, finally works for me. Lovely.
How about the rest of you?
Uh-oh.
Let me know. Let me know.
I'm seeing good stuff in the
We
chat.
are-
So
we
Okay,
are
okay.
in business. All right, Craig. Sorry about
Good,
it.
good.
Now, take it
No
away.
worries, no worries. Like I said, we're early, so we didn't miss a whole lot. Like I said, previous to this was just the like I said, just kind of the breakdown. It's really just a visual. So everything I was kind of talking about as far as the structure goes. So again, we'll kind of break into each one of those. Obviously, the esports being kind of the new one we want to hit. But I guess real quick, just to reiterate, right? Super Phoenix, the actual ship, the operation. So SPO, right? Super Phoenix operations. We're still positioning to have the Titan be in game and begin earning by year end with mining and crafting. The missions. Obviously, C4 is coming. That's going to change things dramatically. And again, the idea is that the ship revenue is going to flow to the DAO account. Net any of the operating expenses and that kind of stuff. I guess the main component of this is, and we'll go through, with the full roadmap. Obviously, there's a few things we're doing prior to this that are going to lend itself to, how we get to this point and get the Titan ship kind of finalized out of escrow and into the game. But I did want to kind of cover it, make sure we're still addressing that, and things haven't changed as far as that mission and vision go. So, and then the other pillar, like we were just kind of talking about, is really this new esports platform, fantasy betting, the DFS, right, daily fantasy betting app. That's a big component that we're moving forward on now. We've been doing quite a bit of work this last month or two on, and really moving forward to push this out in the next few months. And so I've got a whole separate kind of breakdown where I can hop into some of that. We'll go over it, see what questions people have. I think this is a pretty exciting component. There's a lot of demand for it. There's a lot of really cool feedback I've been getting with folks that we've been discussing with and talking with, offline, people in the esports communities, people even in the tech stuff. And I've been talking to and now have secured a few advisors who are very familiar with this entire ecosystem, both with how the betting works, a lot of the kind of legal components around that, and then just how we're going to deliver this in general. So I will, if you guys give me 1 second, I'm going to hop over. Yeah, I can hop over here. And there we go. All right, are we still in business with the stream?
For me, it is.
Looks good on my end.
Okay, cool. And so this is just kind of a quick breakout, but I had done this and James, we can kind of get into it here in the next minute or so. But So the Clash of Titans tournament is currently kind of what we're labeling the actual tournament setup for Superphoenix Sports. Like I said, which is the new entity. Um, and effectively, we are building an app. We're building a mobile app, and the idea is to be able to push the mobile app out and be live on the new Solana Seeker phone. And so the app, we've got a lot of vision, a lot of things that we're working on. We've got some start and things started as far as the app goes. And one of the coolest components that James and his team was able to help me with right away, just this past month or so, was that kind of out of the blue. This had been in the background, and we were working on components or parts of it and ideas of it. But out of the blue, because of the new Solana Seeker phone launch that just happened here a few weeks ago, Solana Mobile launched a hackathon in July for any of the new apps that are kind of interested in participating in this new app store and ecosystem with the phones. And so obviously this was a huge opportunity for us. So I was able to call up James on pretty short notice and talk with him and the folks on his team to see if we could crank this out in a few weeks. And amazingly enough, we were able to get a basic demo, some basic functionality, and then kind of this pitch here that we've got in front of us out and submitted. And so now we're kind of in the thick or in the running with all the other folks who submitted for that current hackathon for the Solana mobile app as kind of the new Seeker season has begun. We're still in the midst of it. I think there's a lot of judging that has to go on, so we're probably not going to find out for a few weeks. But again, really excited. It's very cool. I've already talked to a number of folks, affiliated with the Solana mobile team and the Solana floor team that's doing all the advertising for Solana Seeker. So we feel really confident about being able to make sure that once the app is ready to go live, that we have the distribution and we have some great marketing. We have some really good support from the folks over at Solana. And the fact that we can obviously lean on, Star Atlas as a brand helps us a ton, in that whole ecosystem. But again, very exciting. There's a lot we can do as far as the new phone and being one of the new apps on the new phone as it gets delivered here over the next, few weeks to a month or so as these phones are going out. As a matter of fact, I don't know if anybody saw the post, but I actually just got my new Seeker phone in the mail about 2 days ago. Very cool. I was getting the wallet set up and getting, some of the stuff going on it. It's really impressive. It's pretty slick. So I think there's going to be a lot of great traction that we can gain from getting the app, kind of on that platform as it goes out. But again, real quick, I'll kind of whip through these really quick. We've got a quick demo video to kind of go over briefly, and then we can kind of get some more info from James, who's definitely got more background on how this stuff goes and what we're looking at going forward. But the idea, we've got a few screenshots and mock-ups that we've worked on. But the general idea is that we're going to start with the racing component in Star Atlas, right? So we're going to work with a lot of the current players and teams and the guilds that are in there and are playing, in Iris Quest or in Gallia Cup. And those folks they're really excited to kind of get on board and start working with us and start creating these brackets and getting some of the beta testing going as we go forward here in the next month or two. But ultimately, the idea is that, this app's going to have kind of full functionality, at kind of its end stage where you can set up your brackets. You'll be able to watch live races as they're happening from the app. You'll be able to go in and place bets on the brackets. We'll probably have closed bracket betting at the very beginning, but eventually we'll move to much more real-time kind of live style. And then there's another kind of NFT component that we're going to go into a little bit too with this. And it'll tie in with everyone who's got cubes and all of that stuff. So just to give you a rough idea of kind of what we're thinking with some of the layout. And then, of course, the bracket that I think I've teased a few times, over the last year or so, because I think we first started working on this bracket early spring of this year. And again, the folks over at James' team has done a phenomenal job of even just getting some of this stuff set up, because there's obviously a lot of complexity that goes into, the brackets, the creation, making sure this UI is going to function the way we need it to, being fully interactive, and then being mobile. That's another whole, a whole nother phase of this. But the idea is we want to have, similar to anyone who's familiar with, kind of US stuff and March Madness style. That's a really popular kind of bracket competition, every spring with the NCAA here. We're kind of mimicking that idea and that experience, but then adding in sort of this Twitch component and then the kind of fantasy betting, component like a FanDuel or a DraftKings or some of those other large betting type style apps. Again, have the full bracket viewer is kind of the idea, where we can access this through the app, be able to set up your brackets, have leaderboards, be able to join these tournaments depending on, once we get to that more live version of all of this. That'll all be incorporated into the app, along with kind of the live streaming component, like I mentioned. So being able to watch, the races live, or be able to watch, we want to do kind of some very cool kind of socialized watch with friends kind of chat components eventually. And then the ability to hop in and place these bets and do the wagers, as these things are kind of moving through. And then obviously replays, right? So we'll be able to get some really cool clips and really neat replays and kind of key moments of the races as they happen, throughout these bracket competitions. And the idea is to create a full spectator sport out of this. And have the live matches being called by some of our well-known influencers, who I've already, chatted with a few of them who are very much on board. And I think that'll be a ton of fun. We'll be able to get people engaged. We'll be, live streaming these, via Twitch and, on the Superphoenix site, as well as through the app directly. And then creating a lot of just really cool kind of follow-up content that we can not only market forward to future audiences, but then also provide for everyone on the app who wants to kind of look back and check out cool moments with maybe their favorite players or racers or any of those kind of things. I would say another later stage component here. Again, initially we're going to be doing kind of pick 'em brackets, like I mentioned, but eventually we want to move to the prediction markets, which is more the live, style kind of setup. And the very cool part about this is it obviously varies based on jurisdiction, and there's things we can't do here in the U.S., but we can certainly do internationally. And the very cool part is some of the prediction market infrastructure is pretty far along, specifically in crypto. And as a matter of fact, I've had some excellent conversations with a gentleman named Chris, who's the CEO of a company called Forecast. And Forecast is actually building. Well, they've already built. It's functional now. They've been pretty well funded, and they're specifically in the blockchain space. I think their token even runs on the Ronin network specifically. But they offer effectively, matched prediction market betting for all sorts of sports, professional sports, and even stuff that's in esports and gaming related. And they were kind of birthed out of crypto, right? So they're very familiar with crypto. They use blockchain for their actual prediction markets and their kind of internal token that people use for betting and prizes and whatnot. And not that we would use them directly, but the ability to have them on board as an advisor, I think, is going to help greatly when we look at what our best options are for potential simple prediction markets for our own races and our own players as we move forward. So again, it's really exciting. There's a lot of cool stuff happening in that area. I know another one, football.fun, is also out there. That's very recent, in just the last few weeks. That's gotten a lot of traction. It's not quite prediction markets, but they've done some really cool, unique things with effectively creating markets for tokenized player assets, right? In professional kind of FIFA, football internationally. So again, some very cool stuff that we're really on the cusp of. I've had a lot of great discussions with people in esports, specifically in the UK and in Europe, that are really familiar with those industries. And so I've been getting a lot of great insights, a lot of good information, and even been able to to make some of these contacts that'll help us as we kind of go forward with building this out. Real quick, we'll go back to the NFT stuff a little bit later, but just real quick, so people are kind of aware. This is probably one of the bigger things that's going to hit, I would say, recently or in the near future. Is we're effectively creating a new kind of tranche of NFTs. It'll be a smaller collection, but it's going to be focused specifically on the app, right? So the idea is to kind of create that integration with betting components, the app, and the whole esports vibe that we're going to have within the app that we're building. So the mint is going to be very similar to the cubes, right? So we'll have the same kind of tiers, 1 through 5. We're even looking at the ability to maybe do some kind of merge event with these tips. We'll kind of see how that goes. James, we'll have to talk a little bit more about some of that, but I know we have some really good infrastructure that you guys built, obviously, for the cubes prior. But just to throw it out there so everyone knows, we'll be looking to do a snapshot probably in the October timeframe for anyone who holds data cubes now of any level. And the idea is that you'll get a matching airdrop of the equivalent tier new Super Phoenix Sports token, right? Poker chip token. Now, whether people want to use them or not, or get into the game and participate in kind of the perks that those will offer, that'll be totally up to everybody and what they want to do. But I just figured it something we had to do for the original community, who's obviously been with us, this last year. But the idea is we are going to sell a tranche of those out to, like I said, we're going to have a lot of. I anticipate there being a pretty good conversion and a lot of new folks, or maybe not Star Atlas folks, but they're in the Solana ecosystem. They've got the new Seeker phone. They're checking out the app. We're also going to be doing direct marketing to folks who are just much more in kind of the active betting, prediction market kind of gambling space. And so the likelihood that we can, use these poker chip NFTs to kind of maybe go beyond, the current community that we have at the moment, that kind of appeal to those different components of this app, and maybe not so much, the Super Phoenix chip or maybe the Star Atlas game, which I'm sure there will still be conversion, of course, and there'll be crossover, which is great. But the idea is that's where we're kind of going with this. So I want to assure that everybody who's got their cubes, you're going to get an airdrop of these poker chips as well. But we'll put more out there. We'll kind of have that sale and that process later this year. I kind of go in hand with the app and when it's coming out. Again, the idea is that there'll be different perks with this poker chip NFT as well that go along with the app, with different brackets, with different tiers, with different maybe multipliers or bonuses on some of the prizes or some of the prize pools that people can win and participate in. So that's sort of the idea with the NFT that we're working through for that phase. Then as far as data goes, this is a kind of a snapshot of the image of where you would kind of do some of your picks for the initial bracket setup. And eventually we want to bring in, there's a lot of stuff we can do with blockchain, which is awesome as far as the data that we begin to collect on all the folks who participate in the racers, right? So, or in the races, our actual athletes. And so the fact that we can scrape some of that data and that we'll be able to kind of create our own database for folks and their statistics and their everything around their racing as they build up a history, then we'll be able to start offering some really cool analytics for folks to compare racers and figure out their tournaments and and kind of offer up hot picks. There's a real potential for some AI compatibility there, and I've had some great conversations with a gentleman who is actually he's sort of the AI guy, if you will, official consultant for the British Esports League. And we've had some phenomenal conversations about this. He's very excited about it, really supportive of the project and kind of the idea of creating these kind of platforms specifically for individual games and the communities who want to be a part of those games and those ecosystems. So again, really exciting, some great conversations, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff we can do with this down the road once we get to that phase and we've accumulated some of this data with racers and players. And then real quick, finally, just kind of the, your regular profile and your wallet and kind of how you would manage, your account within the app. I'd say a lot of this stuff will hopefully feel pretty standard. However, we'll have some integrations with the NFT component if you want to use that. It's certainly not required. There'll be people who'll be able to come in and still watch and bet and do all of their things without having to worry about, NFT poker chips if they don't want to, that are still, comfortable in kind of the wider Solana ecosystem. But the idea is we're kind of manage everything. We'll have all of our terms of service and all the connections we need, and then the wallet integration that we'll have both for I'm assuming it'll be pretty easy for the Seeker phone, considering now that we've got a device that has a built-in hardware wallet right in the device. That becomes pretty slick. But even for folks, when we put these out on the App Store and Android Store, still being able to integrate your Phantom or your Soulflare wallet shouldn't be an issue. So that's kind of what I had for that. And I guess real quick, we can give I would say a quick visual. And obviously, James, feel free to jump in anytime here, but I'll kind of let folks take a look at what we've had sort of with some of the screens.
Yeah, a few people are still having issues, weirdly enough.
Oh, are we not? I can try and redo the live stream if we need to.
I think it's
If
still
you're,
working for most
sure.
people, but a couple of
It is
people are.
working. It is working for some and not for some others. I'm not entirely sure why it doesn't, but
Mm. All
it
right.
is
Well,
what it is.
apologies, guys. Hopefully the recording will help a little bit. We're kind of
Yeah,
just showing a few of the screens here. So that first one was kind of our home screen, like we mentioned, where you can click in to
I
watch some of the live.
I'm not seeing. I'm still seeing the slideshow.
Oh, are you not getting the video? Okay.
Yeah, we might want to pull the video into the screen
yeah.
share.
You need to stream a different window.
Yes. Too many windows. It's just. How about this?
There we go.
It's
Works for
There we
me.
go.
loading.
Alrighty. Well, all right. I'll hold off a second here. The good news is that I'm not the one building the actual app. So my inability to work with the technology today should not deter anyone from what we're actually building, by the way.
That is definitely a big pro. That is definitely a big pro.
Uh,
I just for you guys in the chat. I do see the screen. I am recording. More of an amateur compared to ODVB, but it's being recorded at least.
all right, sounds good. Like I said, we'll go through. We kind of just show a few of the screens right now in their current phase that we have on the basic demo. And this was also presented to the, for the hackathon, like I mentioned before. So we had the initial screen as the home screen. We can kind of get we kind of have the connection and integration there to submit your bracket and your picks. And then I think we'll take a look at the live screen, which is again, all this stuff can be accessed directly from the home screen. Oh, right, we'll have the different rounds, the different sections that you can access, and all these will kind of flow through as the tournament's happening. But as far as the live screen, kind of the ideas for this, obviously you can watch races when they're live. Then there'll be some recordings on there from past races. But that kind of the section there in the middle is what we were hoping for some of the prediction market stuff in the future, where you'll kind of be able to see how odds and things move live. Um, and then as far as the My Bets section goes, this is where you'll be able to access anything related to the NFTs component and also be able to review kind of your current bets and who you've chosen and what the pick'em status is for things that you're currently active in. And then finally, just the general profile page, like I mentioned, you'll kind of set up your username, um, your ID, your wallet connection. It'll be able to recognize any of your NFTs that apply for anything that you're accessing. Like I said, along with general support, terms of service, all that kind of good stuff in sort of the normal profile component for the app. So I would say that's the gist at the moment from kind of the current layout. But obviously, moving forward, we've got some of the logic that we're working on in the back end, which is great. And then at least some of the basic components and functionality, we could kind of click through the different screens so that we could present for the hackathon.
Yeah, sorry, I was unable to see the. I'm having issues seeing the stream. So, thank you for talking through some of those features. Is now a good time to jump in and chat
Yeah,
about?
absolutely. Yep. This is great because we'll hop back and do some other stuff now. So this is a great time to talk a little bit more maybe about the tech and
Cool.
how we're going to deliver the app.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, working in a hackathon is always a lot of fun. It's really cool to build out prototypes and sort of envision what you could do in the future. Phil, who's not here with us today, but he works closely with us on the development side of things. He built out everything that you were just seeing. Did a really great job there. What the app doesn't have right now is basically the full suite of smart contracts that will manage the betting system end to end. So Craig, I know you've sort of mentioned a number of phases to this, right? So there will kind of be a phased rollout of various on-chain components and different layers of decentralization based on where we're at as we're building. But one of, I think, the key components in any kind of tournament or betting or buy-in type of situation is to have a really solid escrow smart contract where customers or participants can deposit funds and feel confident that that's going to go to the right person after the fact. So we'll be building out a suite of smart contracts that frankly resemble something very similar to like Polymarket or other types of betting services that you mentioned, Craig, to ensure that people feel comfortable about where they're putting their tokens and knowing that the payout is going to go to the winner type of thing, right? So I think it's going to be really, really cool. Fortunately, Solana is such a high performance chain that I think it's an obvious pick for this type of live stream event type of thing, where we'll probably start with just pick the winner beforehand. I do think the live stream and like live betting piece is very doable with the infrastructure that exists. So we're really excited to dig into it.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the tech really lends itself to us to be able to do this kind of stuff, these later stages or later phases, as we mentioned, because oddly enough, even some of the largest kind of fantasy betting apps that are out there, they all kind of deal with a bit of that issue, right? They either have maybe kind of their internal credit type of system that they try to deal with, but actual payouts, true cash outs and payouts for folks who are betting, there's still a bit of a bottleneck there with making sure things are done right and applied correctly, where I think that's where blockchain has a huge advantage, right? And then the other component that anybody I've talked to who's done any or attempted to do these things in the esports realm, the other real pain point that I've run across is that they never have, any third party never really has direct access to, let's say, the actual stats and data kind of real time of what's happening in the game. Because proprietary game development studios in Web 2, they just don't. Not that they don't care, but they really don't have an incentive to kind of offer those direct links or APIs to third parties for what's going on in their game and their game logic. Whereas here in Star Atlas, part of this stuff will be or can be on the blockchain, which is helpful for us to simply tap into. And then obviously the fact that Star Atlas as an organization is so good about being transparent and assisting with tools and building to provide that kind of access, I think we'll have a huge advantage in that component too, as far as having an app that can eventually be such a true kind of real-time live update to what's going on in game. All right. So I think I could probably kind of hop back to kind of the rest of the presentation, a few more things to wrap up as far as the roadmap and that sort of thing. Unless you guys want to comment any more on Superphoenix Sports or the app or that component. I guess if not, I think I would say, again, we're most excited about it because I've kind of had all these pillars envisioned for quite some time since last year. Or even before last year. And the reality is this seems to be the one that's kind of front and center at the moment, just because of where Star Atlas development currently is, where kind of the appetite is for folks, in the game or within the ecosystem, and the fact that we now kind of have the tooling, I would say, available to pull these things all together is exciting. It's very cool. So kind of looking forward to moving, this first component within that whole entertainment aspect forward. And eventually tying it all back into, the Superphoenix, the DAO, the ship, because there's always been the idea that eventually the ship will have, its own internal kind of racing track and component that we can build into our tournaments and all these things and kind of bring it full circle, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. I agree very
Right.
much.
Okay, we're gonna try streaming again for, I don't know, 4th or 5th time here. Let me know if we're good.
Is it working, everybody, or is it
All
not?
right.
That is the question.
Like I said, I've got a couple more things to kind of hit on. We're we'll circle up on a few more, and then we'll kind of wrap. So that third pillar, I guess I'll hit on here while we're kind of going through them, is really more that music component, right? So there's kind of this combination or idea of an AI musician and AI musician persona that we can build that's truly owned effectively by the DAO and perform live shows within the environments that we're building in Unreal Engine, and then also able to kind of autonomously um, and socially interact with people outside of the ecosystem in social media on different platforms. All these things are really cool, and there's a lot of great tooling that's moving forward for that stuff too, with AI. We were looking at it really early on, like early part of this year, and some of the things that were going on with the platform Virtuals. They were moving forward in a lot of AI. There's a few other platforms now as well. But the reality is, and James, I don't know how much info you might have on this, but also Phil, who was mentioned before, has been helping out a lot of these things that's on James' team. Phil and I actually started working on some of the background of the AI musician and persona. And he's done phenomenally well at being able to kind of put some of those initial building blocks in place to start building what this persona for this AI would be, which is very cool. And eventually we can get into the music components and then creating, a true marketable, you know, entity, I guess, that we can put out to the world. Another big piece of that, which I think I've maybe mentioned or alluded to in the past, is that now we truly have on board as one of our advisors a gentleman named David Bassett. Dave Bassett has been in the kind of professional music industry here in the U.S. for well over 20 years. Nominated for many Grammys. He's a professional writer and producer for, I would say, some of the most famous and popular, musicians that's been around in the last decade or more. So he's an excellent resource to have and be able to bring on board when we move forward with kind of this AI musician persona next year. Like I said, we want to focus on the sports and the app now through the end of this year and getting it launched and getting it active because of kind of where the game is at. The AI persona we were actually looking at pursuing a bit earlier this year, but again, because the ship's not completely there, the environments aren't completely there, even the AI tooling for creating this kind of full persona that can do all of the things we needed to do are very close and very good, but maybe not 100%. So pushing that into next year just kind of made logical sense as sort of our last phase of these different pillars that we want to offer in the the larger entertainment component of Superphoenix DAO. But again, it's still very exciting. We've had great conversations with people around branding and merchandise, and specifically the music and the types of shows and things that we can host in the virtual environment. And both the designers that we're working with now that helped create some of those cool Unreal Engine spaces that we saw in that video that Superphoenix DAO has put out now, I think, in a couple places and during Copa, those types of things. They're doing phenomenal work in UE5 and can help us expedite some of these venues if we need to, along with another gentleman I've been working with pretty closely who's done a lot of building directly for Epic Games and Fortnite, and now is actually employed with Disney and is going to be working on some of their UE5 development in Epic Games. Fortunately, he's a huge fan of the project and is still willing to kind of consult and help guide us in that direction once we get to that point, so we can truly work on building out a persona and possibly even mimicking some of our spaces in Fortnite, just like we've done, in Portals, and like we'll eventually have full-time in Star Atlas. So all that's really exciting. But like I said, we're kind of moving that to early to mid part of next year, just so we can kind of focus on getting the current phase with the sports betting out. Then real quick, we'll kind of jump into the DAO token, and there's a couple of reasons to go over it. One, there's been a lot of, when TGE, right? When DAO token. And I know we've been talking about it for quite a while, and folks who have cubes who have been staking them since the spring are accumulating the DAO tokens, Ember tokens that we're going to be launching. And so just, I guess, real high level, the idea here is that we're working on the mobile app The plan is to get the basic version of the mobile app for the sports betting out, get the NFTs combined with those out and available, and basically use kind of the attention and the distribution and the new and some of the new folks that we're going to be marketing to for that whole component to then tie into the DAO as a whole, the launch of the Ember token, because now we're starting to kind of cross these value chains of not just the cubes and the ship earnings, UE5 and Star Atlas, but then also the esports and racing components. The attention we'll be able to get from kind of the spectator sport version of this and all the content we can create. And then the other people who are now kind of interested or might be just playing for the betting component can at least be aware of what Ember's about, what the DAO's about, and we can hopefully convert some of those folks over to be, purchasers and buyers of this Ember DAO token launch that we're targeting for near end of year, so somewhere in that November December timeframe, because we want to give enough time to do the other things I mentioned with the app and the betting component. There's also a tie-in with this too, just because we're going to be at Breakpoint again this year, and Breakpoint is, I believe, around the second week of December, and so the ability for us to have some really cool activations with the mobile app, the tournaments, and the betting components, and then kind of piggyback that attention and support we're getting from Solana as a whole. And like I said, roll that over into also, oh, by the way, this is part of a bigger DAO that's got the token, that's got a TGE, that's got all this coming out. And so that's kind of the idea and where the time frame comes for all of this. On the short, I guess on the quick end of this too, what I'm doing today is kind of letting everyone know that we're so we have a limited amount of the Ember tokens that we're offering up for pre-sale, which is kind of noted on the screen here. So the launch price is going to be 10 cents per token. The total fixed supply is 150 million tokens forever, and the vast majority of those are locked up for staking and for partnerships and for cube staking, DAO staking, most of those things. So really, our public sale is really only going to be about 10% of the supply. And then and so what we've effectively done is earmarked another potential somewhere between 5 and 10% of the total supply is available for kind of this pre-sale application. Now, we've already solicited some pre-sale orders, which is phenomenal. So even out of that limited available pre-sale supply, we've already sold 15% of that, which is great. And we haven't even put any of these kind of marketing and promotions out. That's simply been from conversations we're having and other organizations and individuals that are interested. But the piece I wanted to kind of put out here today is that we're I guess the reality is to make sure that we're including everyone in our community, right? So everyone in Star Atlas, everyone in our Superphoenix DAO community, the folks who are involved in the guilds, who have been paying attention and with us kind of for the long haul here. I'd really hate to just do the pre-sale kind of behind closed doors, over the counter. You get this discounted price. And these are usually whales. These are usually people who can kind of afford to buy in big tranches, or maybe part of another DAO or organization that can allocate funds. And that's how these things tend to go. And so the reality is I just thought this is because we've got kind of limited time frame and we're moving into the app and then we'll be moving into the launch. I wanted to extend an offer kind of specifically and only to our guilds and to our Star Atlas community and primarily the Superphoenix DAO community. So I'm going to hop over to that real quick. I'll talk about it for a second, and then we can kind of go from there.
All right.
Let's see. I was trying to flip over with the screen sharing. Let me know if you've got it. And I apologize. This one might be a little bit small, just because the format is more of a direct marketing format to go to kind of the guild leaders for folks who are, like I said, involved and kind of been with us, this whole time. So I guess real quick. The whole idea here, just off the cuff, we can kind of go through the details, but the short version is for a limited time, literally just for this month. So we're going to start it tomorrow. I've already reached out to a handful of guild leaders specifically who are aware of this, and we've got individual affiliate links for each guild. We're going to send those out so that everyone has the opportunity and guilds can kind of talk about them amongst themselves and do what they need to do individually. But the idea is that we're going to offer the discounted sale price to community members who are, like I said, who are interested, who are here now, and who want to participate in kind of this narrow window before we move forward with all of the launch and the marketing, and the app and the ship and all the things we've been talking about today. And so the idea is, like I said, face value of those Ember tokens when we go live will be 10 cents each. But what we'll do with this one is the actual member, the actual buyer, is going to just pay 5 cents. They're going to get that same 50% discount that we've offered to other, over-the-counter pre-purchase or pre-sale folks. The difference is we're going to cut in the guild, right? So the idea is we appreciate that the guilds, have been with us again since the beginning. They're big proponents for their membership, and obviously we hope that they all play a really big role, that you all play a really big role in the DAO and how we do the decision making and everything as we move forward and we grow. So the idea is that 25% of all of the USDC that we raise directly from these sales via those specific links for each guild, that cash is going to go right back to the guild themselves. So it'll go back to your guild coffer, your guild treasury, however you want to do that. So your purchase, even though you're getting kind of that same deal as an over-the-counter investor would, a quarter of that is going to go directly back to your guild for kind of the benefit of your team, your organization, however you want to look at it. And then another kind of matching, if you will, pro rata 25% will be issued to the DAO, again, to that treasury, in DAO token value. Now that'll be at the full, 10-cent face value, and there's going to be the normal 12-month vesting period for those kind of free, if you will, or matched DAO tokens. So again, just to kind of, we feel like that gives a little bit more of an equity position, a little bit more of a longer term, mindset with the DAO and the organization. So hopefully this promotion kind of helps, and it gives folks who are interested or want to participate, that opportunity to get in like you would if you were, an early investor. The other really big difference, because we don't really anticipate there being a huge market for this in our current community, because obviously you can also go buy the cubes. Anyone who's got cubes and are staking them are earning DAO tokens. So there's multiple ways to go about it. And so the reality is the benefit here, I guess, is that because of the timeline we have left to the launch, we're not putting any restrictions on the tokens you as the individual guild member buy. So you as the member, just buy your tokens. You're going to get them half price. And when we go live with the public sale, everyone will simply get the allocation of whatever they purchased at that time. Again, we don't anticipate it being some kind of monstrous volume that would cause any issues. So I think we'll be completely fine. But I just felt like this was a really good way to include some folks who are interested, give back a little bit to the guilds and the organizations who have been helping us this whole time and been supportive of us this whole time. So that's really the plan and kind of where we're going with that. I got a little more right up here on why us? Why would you want to do this? What's the benefits? But I think obviously we're doing the larger presentation today, so maybe that stuff's not quite as pertinent. But it's really about building out this community, keeping everybody in mind who's been here from the start, rewarding the folks who have cubes, rewarding the guilds and teams that have supported us, and continuing to add value and give value back, to all the folks as we kind of build and grow this out, with everything, with the ecosystem, with the community, and where the market's at. So I know, Benny, I don't know if you have any comments on that, seeing that you're a guild leader yourself, but obviously, Heim's been a big supporter of us, along with a number of other guilds. And so we hope that this is a good promotion that folks will like and take advantage of here over the next few weeks. And if not, no problem. Again, we've got plenty of other things that we've got cooking. We're continuing to sell kind of over the counter to a lot of interested parties. Some really good investor calls and meetings we've had recently. And so I feel really confident about us, kind of pushing forward, getting the marketing out, getting the app going, generating revenue from all these different, outcomes. And I would say the real exciting component of this is really going to be part of the Seeker phone and being on that new app store that gets the distribution. I mean, over 150,000 phones are going out in the next, month or so. These are all Solana holders with wallets, built in the phone. I just think we're going to be in a really good place as kind of the year wraps up We head to Breakpoint. We've got some fun competitions and tournaments we can brag about, and be able to watch and play and bet on the app.
Sounds like we are going to get a slight betting addiction.
We'll see. We'll see.
No, but I think it's very exciting, and especially with the betting app. I mean, there's so much you can do about it on a large scale, and in just in the recent competitions that has been in Star Atlas recently with the
Mhm.
Iris Quest tournaments. Having the betting component to that would be very fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've been I'm talking to all those guys on a pretty regular basis. They've been doing a phenomenal job with Iris Quest. And I completely agree. I think being able to place some wagers on some of those folks, and start to pick some of your favorite players, is going to be a lot of fun. It's just going to add another dimension to what we're already able to do with the game. And the hope is, like I said, we can reach out to a wider audience with this too, because even if folks are maybe not quite to the point where they're fully in Star Atlas and jumping in and playing or having the machine to do so, we make it easy on the app to be able to participate in a different way. That we really feel good about being able to convert some of those folks and bring them over and just drive more attention to, not just the DAO, but also, Star Atlas in general.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. So we'll kind of wrap it up, or we'll go back to the NFTs real quick, as I mentioned before, and this will all kind of come later. So again, the idea here is that we're moving forward with the mobile app, with the betting component, with the public launch of the DAO token, and then we're targeting next year because we'll be kind of riding that hype wave, if you will. There'll be a lot of attention, a lot of marketing, a lot of cool content that we'll be able to put out kind of in the later half of this year, with all these things that we're getting out and building. And so the idea is we want to capture some of that momentum, because obviously we came out of the gate, last year with really just a vision, and we had a lot of great folks who supported us, and bought into the data cubes, and the membership last summer. And obviously we want to continue that, because I think we minted just a little less than 20% of the collection back then, and we went through the merge. And obviously the merge has dramatically reduced the circulating supply of data cubes. And so probably we'll target, the first quarter of 26, but we'll see. That'll be a little flexible. Obviously, the other things are much more important, and we feel like once the tokens are out in circulation, once we've got the mobile app functioning and earning monthly revenue that's driving, revenue back to the DAO and kind of proving some of these concepts we've been talking about for a long time, we hope that that'll start to pick up momentum and drive some more attention back to the DAO and then back to the cubes. That's the whole idea, right? To kind of integrate everything, because at that point the cubes will still be chugging along and they'll be earning Ember tokens. So there's still good incentives for people to get out there. But again, right now we're at such a tightened supply because we've kind of limited, those sales from last year. That I just want to throw it out there that we'll be looking to do kind of a true dedicated marketing push again for another tranche. It'll probably not be the remaining supply because we don't want to oversaturate or kind of do that. But I'm thinking if we shoot for another 20% or so of supply to be minted and obviously available to anybody who's still participating or interested now. But obviously we want to pick up new folks as we're participating in these different kind of bigger environments within Solana in the ecosystem. That's kind of the idea. And so, marketing to folks who are outside of just the Star Atlas customer base. And again, so this all kind of just marches forward, right, with the mobile app and then the DAO token, and then moving forward and kind of pushing these out. What I will say, and maybe I didn't comment before, again, I know there's also the NFT component with the poker chip and the betting app, but obviously everyone will get an airdrop for their equivalent amount. And so the other piece of that I may not have mentioned is that when we do go to sell the poker chip NFTs out to maybe the wider public, those are going to be offered, less than the data cubes because they're just not the same comparison. They really are only going to function in kind of that gambling betting component and not in the wider ecosystem like the cubes always will. The idea is that we'll be selling those chips for about half 0.5 Sol each right now is the target price, and the collection will be much smaller, probably just 2,000 completely, in addition to whatever is airdropped in the beginning phase. But that's kind of the general idea with those. And again, that later push for kind of another tranche of cubes. I guess just so I don't forget, because I know there's always been questions about the chips and the airdrops that we promised a year ago, and we haven't forgotten about it. I've still kind of made this fresh with the team as of a couple months ago, discussing with folks there. And the reality is, when it comes to both getting the Superphoenix into Galia and completing the rest of our purchase from the Star Atlas team for the ship airdrop from those initial OG investors that we have that snapshot from last summer. That really just boils down to the revenue generated from our public DAO token sale. So we're kind of talking about all this as we have a few times. When we get to that public DAO token sale, and that roughly 10% that we're going to be offering out to the public and that wider network, again, via the app and some of the marketing and the other things we're doing, that revenue is directly earmarked to complete these components of kind of the whole thing. So both the airdrops, the ships, and kind of fulfill that promise that we've had since day one. So again, real quick recap. I've probably gone through it a few times now already, but obviously, the racing, the first-person shooter, the app launch is what we're targeting here in the next couple months. All of the esports tournaments, and then, as I mentioned just a second ago, getting the Titan ship fully deployed in game so we can start working on that infrastructure with the DAO, the DAO token itself, and then getting those ship airdrops wrapped up is kind of the goal here, basically between now and year end. And then into next year is where we talk about the musician, the persona, a lot of social media push around that component, because it can really have much deeper tentacles out into the world. The fact that it can kind of interact on its own and be semi-autonomous, I think is going to be a huge advantage there. And then being able to host kind of those live events, in the 3D spaces, in the venues, within the ship later in the year, next year, is kind of the target and the goal. Now, I guess real quick, as far as the couple advisors, I know I've mentioned a few, so I won't have to go through all this. Henry is the gentleman I mentioned who has done all the AI work for many years, and specifically in gaming and esports, and is a premier consultant for the British Esports League, which is very, very cool. He's been extremely helpful, and will be able to do a lot of the anti-cheat stuff as well when it comes to this betting and gambling, which is very convenient. Mika is another CEO that actually runs ENCE Sports, which is kind of it's actually in your neck of the woods, Benny. I think they're based out of Stockholm, I think. Very, very interesting guy, has a ton of experience, has been in kind of managing one of the premier esports leagues in that kind of part of the world, which is very cool. And then Bobby, who's been our guy, who's part of the kind of government relations for Nevada Gaming and the Gaming Commission there, which again, very helpful for navigating a lot of the compliance type of things that we're going to need to do. I can go down the rest of the list, but we've got folks, Sam from Pixel Realm has introduced us to people at Binance Labs. Getting us back in the conversation with people at Neo Tokyo has been helpful. People like Brett and Paul are just been in the esports, technical operations, game development for years and years, which is phenomenal. And then, as I mentioned before, Dave Bassett, music producer, worked on a lot of Grammy-nominated artists and songs, which has been awesome. And then Chris at the end, who's kind of putting together forecasts and all those prediction markets. These are all gentlemen that I've had phenomenal conversations with recently, and have been able to bring on semi-officially as advisors for the project, have very open communication with, and are really bullish on kind of what we're building and the ecosystem we're going after. So that's been really, really great to hear, and have some really good conversations and a lot of good feedback from them over these last couple of months. So with that, we'll try to wrap it. We're a little over an hour, but not too bad, I think, overall. And again, the reality here is this is about everybody who's here, who's watching, who's listening, who's paying attention, who's been with us, from early days with the DAO. We can't do this without you guys. It's been a lot of work, but it's also been just really cool being a part of and working on this project and seeing kind of these things be brought to life. So I'm excited to keep going with it. I think we've got a lot of really cool stuff that we're building and working on going forward. And I will say before I forget, I made some notes here in a lot of my comments earlier, and I didn't get them out before. But when it comes to these different components, the esports racing, the tournaments, the even the AI musician components, um, all of these things, we're going to need help. So I'll just put it out there. The reality is, if there's anybody in the community, in the larger Star Atlas community that's kind of interested in participating in any of these components that I'm talking about, right? The different pillars of entertainment. If you have an interest in any of this stuff and want to, offer up some of your time or help or attention, um, we are happy to accommodate anybody. I mean, please DM me, please hit us up in the chat. There's going to be a lot of just logistics, I think, that we're going to need a hand with and work through. And obviously, I'd love to get to a point where we can compensate folks, right? We've got a lot of different options now as we're coming out with more tokens and we're building the app and all of these things. So there'll be opportunities for a lot of that stuff. But again, anyone who's interested, please let me know. I don't want anyone to feel like this is kind of us just preaching as to this is what we're building. Come back when it's ready. The reality is it's a group effort. The community is a huge part of this, and we appreciate all the support we've had this last year, and look forward to the next.
And just to let you guys know, I enjoy working for free. Just putting it out there.
I think in
Okay.
the early phase we kind of have to, right, Benny? I think if we didn't work for free, it'd be pretty painful.
I think it would. I think it would. No, I'm just kidding. So there's a few questions actually. I thought we could maybe go through so that we
Yeah,
don't look like
absolutely. If we've got a few questions, let's do it.
So we got one from Cold. Is Star Atlas doing all of the ship design, or is there going to be some integration between SPD and SA developers?
Excellent questions. So true UE5 ship design for the ship that's going to be in Gallia and Star Atlas universe, the team is going to be building those Titan ships. However, as far as influence on the design and the ability for us to help with certain components within UE5, we absolutely have the ability to do that and contribute. And I've had conversations with Danny about this, and I've had conversations with um, Gary Sanchez directly, who's kind of working on a lot of the ships and the ideas, and they are extremely open to it. For example, the designer that we had help us build kind of the outline for the track that's in Portals, even though that's a very different ecosystem. The actual track design itself is very cool, right? If you do get a kind of a bird's eye view of it, the actual way the racetrack is formed, um, kind of mimics the Phoenix logo, right? It has these kind of large wings on each side. It has some overlapping components, some really tight turns that kind of make different aspects of our shape. And so they've already thought some of those things are really cool and kind of neat ideas. So the fact that we can incorporate those and work with the Star Atlas team to maybe provide certain components or assets at that level that they need, we can absolutely do that. And I think they're very open to it, which is cool. But as far as through building and implementation, kind of the final build or components of those will be through the team since it's still their environment.
Good answer. There, I'm excited for it. There's another one from Bone here.
Yep.
Sounds like you guys have a lot of parallel projects in play, which is good, but also risk of too many balls in the air. Do you feel comfortable on your roadmap that is focused? Oh shit, English, Do you feel comfortable your roadmap is focused on the near-term cash flow and runway with highly achievable goals that will either provide some cash generation and/or increase community visibility, therefore the ability to raise more funds for investments? God damn it.
So Bone is spot on, and he's not wrong at all. So, and I guess I want to reiterate. So the Superphoenix Sports and the app and the betting component. I guess I want to reaffirm that that's not a pivot away from kind of what we're doing with the vision and the entertainment of the ship. However,
Oh no, Greg, I think you're cutting out.
oh, sorry, do you have me now?
Yeah, you cut out a little bit.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I guess I'll wrap up on this quick, but the yeah, the idea is that these have always been part of the idea and the components and the pillars, like I mentioned, for going back well over a year. But when we started reaching out to different, investors, advisors, folks, and I would say this was probably very early this year, January, February timeframe, we were feeling out the brackets or the racing component. We were also working on some of the ideas with the AI musician component, as well as the just general ship operations itself. And it was very clear that the vast majority of the interest shifted to this mobile app, the sports component, the betting component, because it has the highest likelihood of success for short-term revenue just because of the functionality of the betting components, right? And the fact that Star Atlas now has those modules available to play today. We can capitalize on that because, again, as most of us know, Gallia still is working through those phases, and obviously having the ship in game, does have the ability to earn revenue. There's no doubt about that. But the being completely, blunt there, we all know the price of Atlas has been pretty depressed for quite some time, and so the leverage that we get between the two different components is far higher with the sports betting app. Not to mention also it's more viral. There's more content and there's more ability for us to kind of piggyback on the attention that we'll be able to gain from this app on the new phone, penetration to new Solana users, all of those things just seemed they're just far more pertinent in kind of the time frame. So rather than having all those balls in the air at the same time, as we mentioned, we're really just kind of lining them up much more linearly. And so the AI musician component, like I said, we kind of made a conscious decision to backburner that this spring for this exact reason. Because even though there's a lot of positive feedback on it, the ability to get it up and running at a level that we would, be happy with and monetize it was just not as good as this app is. The reality is we can make this app now. We can capitalize on the Solana Seeker phone. We can capitalize on the new environments for competition that that Star Atlas has built, and we can get to those revenue goals much quicker.
Like I would say it myself. I hope you're happy, Boone, because that was a long ass question. A shorter one next time, please.
Well, I think I'm going to give a long ass answer no matter what the question is. Sorry.
Yeah, you have a tendency to do that, but it's okay. It's okay. We still like you.
Okay, good.
Last one here was basically just for Anunnaki or Anunnaki. I don't know how to
Oh yeah,
say it.
Anunnaki. Yeah.
Yeah, great presentation. Thanks. Can we have some practical information regarding the affiliation with our guild members for the Ember token sale, like our affiliate link and etc.?
Absolutely.
So that
So Anunnaki is actually the guild leader for our folks in France, and we've been in conversation about this kind of off and on, and again because of timing and kind of frankly focusing on the hackathon is what postponed us here the last month or so. But now that that's out of the way, we're moving forward with the promotion, and I'll be specifically reaching out to the guild leaders that I've already spoken to, Anunnaki being one of them, and I'll make sure that I get that unique link out to him and his guild and his folks, tomorrow, very likely tomorrow. Obviously, if anyone has any questions about it or wants to hit me up directly, please do. Feel free to, we can talk about it in the general chat, or you can DM me, no problem. My goal is to get it out to all the guild members who are interested, or guild leaders who are interested. Hopefully, any guild members who maybe aren't hearing from their guild leadership can kind of ping them about it or hit us up directly. And then what I think we'll do, I guess, just to wrap this up too, is what I'll probably do is we'll give it a week or two because I really want folks who are part of those organizations and guilds to kind of benefit from this. but I obviously don't want to exclude anybody who maybe isn't affiliated with a guild in Star Atlas at the moment. So if there are folks who are following us maybe from other communities, but are still here and paying attention and want to be a part of Superphoenix DAO and what we're doing, but maybe aren't heavily affiliated or directly affiliated with a Star Atlas guild, A, they should be, and B, if they're not, we can go ahead and, I'll be able to put out a more generic link for the same discount. So obviously I don't want to exclude people who are here, interested, participating, part of what we have at Phoenix DAO, but again, the goal is to funnel that toward the guilds and kind of reward them for all their support, but obviously not exclude folks who are paying attention and and want to be a part of this today.
Excellent. I guess that's pretty much it.
All right.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of stuff today, and we even
We're
managed
good.
to record it successfully. I think
We'll see.
so
We'll
far,
see.
so good. So yeah, no, it was great for all of you that showed up. I hope you liked what you learned today and the way things are going forward. And yeah, I'm excited for sure.
All right. W's in the chat. Thanks, guys. No, I agree. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we could get some of this out to folks and get people updated. We'll be sure to post the recording, for more folks who couldn't be here today, which is great. And then you'll see a lot from us over the next few months. I know Superphoenix DAO maybe has seemed a little bit quiet lately, but we got a lot of stuff on the back burner, and it's going to be a fun end of year.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that he's busy on the back end because he's extremely busy. Hard to get a hold of. Just saying. All right, thanks, guys. Hope you all have a great rest of the night, evening, day, morning, whatever it is in your time zone. And see you guys around next time.
All right. Thanks, Benny. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Have a good one.